Now, following the release of pretty damaging excerpts from John Bolton's memoirs, President Trump is now trying to discredit his former national security advisor. So now there are a lot of terrible things about John Bolton, but one thing is that he has always been incredibly honest, which is part of what makes him a terrible person. When you go to what he's being honest about, he's honest about wanting to go to war with pretty much every single person, right? Or every single country in the world, basically. So his credibility, not exactly in question. Nonetheless, Donald Trump in a Twitter tantrum uh, went after John Bolton, not by name. And that's very interesting because yesterday he did go after Bolton by name on Twitter, but after reports had come out saying that he had waived his executive privilege by attacking Bolton, now he comes out and says, talks all about Bolton, but not actually mentioning him by name. Very, very interesting stuff. So now let me give you the tweets here. For a guy who couldn't get approved for the ambassador to the UN years ago, because he was too much of a war hawk, couldn't get approved for anything since, begged me for a non-Senate approved job, which I gave him despite many saying, don't do it, sir. Takes the job, mistakenly says liberal Libyan model on TV, and many more mistakes of judgment. Gets fired because, frankly, if I listened to him, we would be in World War VI by now. And goes out and immediately writes a nasty and untrue book, all classified national security. Who would do this? Yes, who would do this indeed? Fascinating. So again, not mentioning Bolton by name. Fascinating. Okay. I love, for one, how Donald Trump is so predictable, right? He has done the exact same playbook with every single high profile departure from his administration that was not amicable, right? Oh, coffee boy, right? Barely, always begged for his job, begged me not to fire him, begged me to hire him, right? I gave him the job. Look, he hires the best people, right? For some reason, he says he hires the best people. And for some reason, all these people that come begging him for a job, he just gives them a job. So wait, if I came up to the White House and said, "Oh, please, Mr. Trump, please make me the communications director, make me the national security advisor," would he give me a job? He hires the best people, from what I hear. No, it's ridiculous. And then goes after him on, oh, yeah, he says the wrong thing on TV, of course. Yeah, that's why I got rid of him. Now, his point on World War VI actually is kind of true. And look, that's important to point out because John Bolton has never met a war that he didn't like or want to start with whatever country, North Korea, Iran, Venezuela. And by the way, that I do believe is the very reason Donald Trump hired John Bolton in the first place, is because he wanted to go to Venezuela, overthrow the government, and then take the oil. So, of course, that's what he wants to do. Now, Trump supported the coup in Venezuela, supported Juan Guaido, and look, unfortunately for Trump, that failed. Okay, and I'm saying unfortunately for Trump, that failed. By the way, that again, once that fell apart, John Bolton and Donald Trump started really having a huge distance in between them, right? So that is interesting. But he tried to invade Venezuela, or wanted to invade Venezuela, and wanted to do regime change on the advice of John Bolton. So it's not like you couldn't talk Donald Trump into doing stupid things. Now, as far as as bad as John Bolton is, by the way, there's somebody that's still in the administration that's even more dangerous than Bolton. And I don't mean just Donald Trump, who himself is dangerous, but I mean Mike Pompeo. So Pompeo, I think, is far more dangerous than Bolton. But anyway, I always try to throw that in because that guy, still in power, still making decisions, still incredibly dangerous. All right. So now back to the funness of the meltdown, right? A lot of people on social media decided to point out how Donald Trump seems to have a bad record of hiring the best people. In fact, he seems to be hiring the worst people and then firing them when they turn on him. Jeff Tiedrich points out, Mr. President, sir, you should fire the moron who hired John Bolton. He's the real idiot. Jeremy Neuberger says, you made a highly unqualified guy a national security advisor? You see how that makes you a complete and total moron, yes? No, he'll never see that. Fortas says, 23 indictments, 12 criminal convictions, 2 articles of impeachment, 71 suppressed documents, 12 suppressed witnesses. As ignorant of the law that Donald Trump may appear to be, ignorance is no excuse in the eyes of the law, and Donald J. Trump is not above the law. Interesting to point that out. Howard Foreman says, you made a lot of bad choices in life. Everything you touch seems to die one way or the other. Michael Cohen, Paul Manafort, General Flynn. Maybe it's not just them. Maybe it's you. Right. Lawhawk says, you picked the guy and now can't wait to throw him under the bus because everyone knows he's telling the truth. And you engaged in multiple felonies as part of Ukraine cover-up caper via partners Rudy and Fruman. But for the GOP being craven and complicit, you should be removed from the White House. Imagine being in a world where Republicans actually gave a crap about the law. We don't live in that world. Seriously. Now, Marie Caroline points out, notice how it's always the same. And she's pointing out, of course, the same tweets, the same arguments. Only the names really change as his cabinet continues to basically empty itself. The swamp is literally draining itself, funny enough. And again, John Bolton, for as bad as he is, he's at least honest about how terrible he is. But it really is kind of amazing, though. A lot of presidential administrations have turnover, of course, but not as much as Donald Trump. A lot of his former staffers are either in prison, in trouble with the law, or they have actively turned against him, or just completely disappeared. When's the last time anybody's seen Rent Priebus? Like, the guy just completely disappeared. I don't know. Maybe it has something to do with the fact that he hires criminals and people from Fox News. Remember, John Bolton, before joining Donald Trump's administration, and before, of course, being attacked viciously by Fox News, was a contributor on Fox News for 11 years. Seriously. So, I don't know. But here's the thing about Trump. He sees someone on TV that he thinks makes good points, or more importantly, defends the administration on something, or goes after Democrat, whatever, right? He sees that person on TV. He's like Mr. Burns. And goes, oh, I got to hire that guy. Hire that guy. Now, on John Bolton's, dealing with him, originally, Trump did not want to hire Bolton for one simple reason: his mustache. What a vain and shallow individual. But that's who he is, right? So he didn't like the mustache, but loved what he started saying about Venezuela. And so we got to get this guy in the cabinet. We got to hire him. He's one of the best people, right? Now, again, Bolton is monstrous. He's a literal war criminal, right? But he's not Donald Trump's kind of criminal. And that's where they differed. See, Donald Trump loves doing personal criminal corruption, right, in order to enrich himself. John Bolton just does war crimes because that's who he is. And he's like, what? Why aren't we bombing more brown people or other people across the world? And that's what I love to do. Who cares if they're a threat to us? Let's bomb them anyway. That's who John Bolton is. And so it wants more of, I want to project my own strength and power and whatever for whatever ends. Whereas Donald Trump's like, how does it benefit me? And so that's the difference in their criminality, right? So it is funny to see this entire meltdown happen because Bolton wouldn't bend the knee to Donald Trump's corruption, right? And so, and look, there's a new revelation coming out today, or that it came out today, where Bolton had basically talked to Elliot Engel and say, hey, man, Donald Trump is, in this 2 days before impeachment, right? You should look into the efforts to try to fire Marie Yovanovitch. That was Bolton, unprompted, talking to the House and saying, you got to check this out, dude. This is not good. So that's John Bolton, right? And look, loyalty is the only thing that seems to matter to Donald Trump. And that's why, of course, unfortunately, no matter what, Republican senators will not hold him accountable. Hey guys, hopefully you enjoyed that free video. Now I'm going to have to ask you a favor. Between the demonetization and the YouTube algorithm messing around with view counts, etc., we're having a hard time adjusting to the new YouTube reality, which is where you guys come in. See, we have a Patreon, patreon.com/TYTNation, set up to help us rely on you guys, the viewers, instead of big corporate ads. Look, you know the show. You know I'm not in favor of big corporations anyway. So help us transition away from relying on the ad model to pay the bills and sign up to be a patron, patreon.com/TYTNation. That goes a long way to help us keep the lights on. And you guys will know that you're supporting independent progressive media.